Today, I need to screen record. Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today I thought that I would finally share and conclude my Goodreads reading challenge. If you don't know, in 2021 I tried to read all of the winners from the Goodreads Choice Awards of 2020, so like the year before. Basically I challenged myself to do this. It wasn't like an official challenge anywhere. I've seen some other booktubers do it as well. I did have a few spreads in my life journal where I tried to just put down the books I was interested in reading and then add a rating once I had read them. So it wasn't really an official thing, it was just my own personal challenge, and I also did use these spreads when I randomized my TBR and I picked books from this spread. Now it's well over a year since the challenge started, and I should share the results. Did I achieve my goal? Did I read all of the winners? And also, what were my personal favorites from all of the nominees of the Goodreads Choice Awards? Because not only did I try to read the winners, I also tried to read many of the nominees, so I can have my own little Goodreads Choice Awards thing. A preface, my rules for this challenge was, in 2020 there were actually 20 awards, so 20 different categories to read books from. I knew instantly that I probably would not read any books from the food and cookbooks category, so I ignored that category, which made it 19 books for me that I needed to read because I wanted to read all of the winners. I did say in my video when I reacted to the winners of 2020 that I was gonna aim for 17. If I could read 17 out of the 19 winners that I was considering, I would be happy. So we're just gonna have to see if I actually read all of those winners. I'm just gonna go through all of the categories from 2020. I will share if I read a winner, which other books I read, if there are some books I still wished I had gotten to, and who my personal winner was. Let's start with the fiction category. So the winner for the fiction category was The Midnight Library. I did read this one quite late in the year actually, but yeah, I read it, I really enjoyed it, I gave it 4 stars. The runner-up for the award was Anxious People, and this was actually one of my first reads of the year of 2021. I read this in January and I loved it so much. It was the first book I ever read by Fredrik Backman, and it's what kind of grabbed my attention for this writer. But yeah, I read Midnight Library, 4 stars. Anxious People, 5 stars. Such a Fun Age I actually already read in 2020 and I really enjoyed it, so I also gave it 4 stars. My Dark Vanessa is still on my TBR, I really want to get to it. The Glass Hotel I did listen to, so 3 stars to that one. There are actually a bunch of books here I would like to read, but I never really got to. I did read If I Had Your Face, I gave it 3 stars. The Death of Vivek Oji I also read, another 3 star for me. But I find Akwaeke Emesi to be such an interesting author. I really enjoy their books. I have not rated their books the highest, but I'm always anticipating them. Those are the books I read. I think that adds up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. My winner for this category was Anxious People by Fredrik Backman, followed by Such a Fun Age, then Midnight Library, then The Death of Vivek Oji, If I Had Your Face, and finally The Glass Hotel. So the next category is Mystery and Thriller, and I did not read many books from this category at all. I only read the winner. So the book I read was The Guest List. I perhaps was not the biggest fan of it. I don't know, it felt pretty meh. Like the action just kicked in 75% into the book. So The Guest List is the only one I read. I gave it 3 stars. I did purchase Home Before Dark as an ebook. I still hope to get to it. I was close to reading When No One Is Watching because it was a punishment prompt. And there are more books here that I've actually had an eye on. For example, The Night Swim or One by One. So there are some books here that I would like to read. I don't read that many thrillers. I would love to read more, so if you have any recommendations for good thrillers or mysteries, please let me know. So I guess my winner for this category is The Guest List. Next category was historical fiction. Out of all of these nominees, I DNF'd 1 book, and the other book I'm still currently reading. The winner of the 2020 Book Awards in historical fiction was The Vanishing Half. I started reading The Vanishing Half during the summer, and I never finished it. I'm like a third through it. I do want to finish it, but I I just didn't get into it, and then I wanted to read other things, and now it's like on hold for half a year. Most likely it will end up being like a 3-star for me, because I think the first third is the boring part, and then hopefully it will get better, but we're gonna have to see. So yeah, it's not gonna be a 5-star, definitely not. The book I DNF'd was the runner-up, which is the Jane Austen Society. This book, how should I say it? I just think it wasn't for me. I have never read Jane Austen. I don't know anything about it. I want to, but I haven't. So I think I listened to about 10% of it, and then I decided to DNF it because I simply was not paying attention and I had no clue what was going on. Next category is fantasy. The winner of the 2020 Book Awards was, of course, I guess, House of Earth and Blood. I have bought it, but I have not yet read it. So I did not read the winner for this one, but I did read already in 2020 The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I've also in 2021 read The House in the Cerulean Sea. I've also read The Burning God, the third book in the Poppy War series. So I've read, I guess, 3 books out of all of these. And there are a few that I'm still interested in. Many of them are parts of series, so it's kind of difficult to read books that are like the 3rd or 4th book in a series when I have not read the series. I had hoped to read I Think a Deadly Education, but I'm so conflicted about that one because I've heard so many bad things. So I don't think I want to pick it up actually. So the winner for me in the fantasy category obviously was The Burning God, the 3rd book in the Poppy War series. I gave it 5 stars. It broke me. I was upset. I was a mess. I did not feel well for a few days. The runner-up for me was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I gave it 4 stars. And then very close 3rd place was The House in the Cerulean Sea. Also another amazing book, 4 stars. All of these 3 books are incredible. I highly recommend them if you are interested. The next category is romance, and the winner for romance in 2020 was From Blood and Ash. I have not read this one. I even struggled with getting a hold on it. It was so difficult to find. It's either super expensive or it's not in stock. So it took me basically the entire year just to get the book. I now have the book and I am very excited about reading it, but I have not gotten to it yet. So once again, I did not read the winner. I did read the runner-up, which was Beach Read. I gave it 3 stars. I've also read Take a Hint, Danny Brown. I gave that one 3 stars. I'm not the biggest fan of the Brown Sisters series in general. For me, this was the better one compared to Chloe Brown. One to Watch I read already in 2020 and it was entertaining, but not so much more, so I also gave that one 3 stars. In Holidays I also read in 2020 already and I really enjoyed it. It was my second Christina Lauren book at the time, and yeah, I gave it 4 stars. I personally had a good time when I listened to it, and I also listened to it around Christmas times, so I think that helped. For me, the winner was In Holidays, followed by One to Watch, Beach Read, and then finally Take a Hint, Danny Brown. Next category is science fiction. Once again, I think I only read the winner, so I did read or listen to Sleep in a Sea of Stars. The audiobook is 32 hours long, including a glossary and an interview that I actually skipped. So it was about 30 and a half hours long, but still, it's a lot of audiobook in that audiobook. It was so boring and so repetitive, and I did not enjoy it, and I gave it 2 stars. But at least I read a winner, right? Worth it? Not sure. I think I understand why people enjoy it, but I'm still figuring out what sort of sci-fi I like, and I'm not sure if I'm the biggest fan of the first contact with alien thing. And once again, this one was very repetitive. And you could also tell that it was written by a man at certain points. But it was repetitive because basically they travel to a place, they fight, they go to sleep in their cryo thing, they travel to the next place, they fight, they go to sleep in their cryo thing, next place, fight, cryo thing, next place, fight, cryo thing. That's basically it. That's the only one I read. I did attempt to start the Locked Tomb series, which is, the first book is Gideon the Ninth, the second book is Harrow the Ninth, but I started listening to it as an audiobook. I think Gideon the Ninth would do better as a physical read for me. So I sort of put it aside, DNF'd it temporarily, and hopefully I will get to it sometime in the future with a physical copy. The winner of the horror category was Mexican Gothic. I have this one as an ebook, but I never got to reading it, and I don't think I read any of the other horrors in this one either. I'm not the best at reading horror. Once again, one of those genres I would like to explore more, but I Did not do it in 2021. Now we're getting to some more different genres than what I normally read. So first we have humor, and the winner for this one was Strange Planet. I did read this one. This is basically a graphic novel or like comic strips about these aliens trying to understand humans. And it was entertaining, it was fun, nothing more. I gave it 3 stars, and that's also the only book I read from this entire category. For nonfiction, the winner was stamped Racism, Anti-Racism and You, and I believe this is the young adult edition version of this book. There is like a middle grade one, a young adult one, and an adult one. I actually listened to the adult one because that was what was available to me on Scribd. So I listened to the adult one, once again a really long audiobook, like 20 hours I think. And it was interesting. There was a lot in it, and also of course a lot of it was centered around America, which makes complete sense because it's about racism in America basically. I do think in hindsight that I should have tried to find the young adult version more. I think that would have just worked better for me. But nevertheless, I feel like it was a good read. I definitely understand why it won, and I gave it 4 stars. And actually, it's not the only nonfiction I read. I did read Hood Feminism as well. I read this as an ebook and I really enjoyed it. It's good, it's snappy, it tells things as it is, and it was cool. So another 4 star there as well. And for me, the winner out of these 2 was Hood Feminism. Next category we have is Memoir and Autobiography. The winner last year was A Promised Land by Barack Obama. Did not read this one, never got to it. I did read Becoming by Michelle Obama, but not this one. And I did not read any other memoirs as well. History and Biography. The winner for 2020 was Cased, The Origins of Our Discontents. Did not read this one, never got to it, could struggle with finding it actually. Next category was Science and Technology, and the winner here was A Life on Our Planet, My Witness Statement and a Vision for the Future by David Attenborough. I also read this one quite late in the year. I think I listened to it in December actually. Only gave it 2 stars. It didn't really contribute with any new knowledge for me. It was just a bit meh. I struggled with finding like a red thread throughout it. Once again, at least I read the winner. Graphic novels and comics. The winner for 2020 was Heartstopper Volume 3. I had not read any of the Heartstopper volumes before 2020. In order to achieve this goal and read this winner, I had to read volume 1 and 2 first before I got to volume 3, which I did. I even read volume 4 last year. And yeah, it's a cute series. I think I gave the 3rd one 4 stars. Graphic novels are not my typical format, but I could appreciate them. I would have wanted some colors in the photos though. Like, it was a bit too great. Like, just some pastels would have been so pretty. But the story itself with Charlie and Nick, that is adorable. For poetry, I listened to Dearly by Margaret Atwood. Not a fan, did not enjoy it, didn't make sense to me. It was weird, it was disconnecting. I gave it 2 stars, I don't know. I read poetry before, or like, not a lot of poetry, but 1 or 2 poetry books. Not something I typically read, but still, if it's the right poetry, it can really hit, and for me, this just wasn't for me. Debut novel. The winner of 2020 was Such a Fun Age, which is cool, because I actually read it in 2020, so I remember that made me very excited that I had read the winner already. I've since also read Cemetery Boys, which was the runner-up. As I said, I gave Such a Fun Age 4 stars. Cemetery Boys also 4 stars. The Jane Austen Society I DNF'd, as I said, Want to Watch, 3 star for me. And I think those are the ones I read for that category. The winner for me in the debut novel category was Such a Fun Age. I really enjoyed it. It deserves 1st place. Cemetery Boys is also really, really good, so it also deserves the silver medal. Following that, I guess, Want to Watch, and then Jane Austen Society as a DNF. Young adult fiction. What's interesting with young adult fiction is actually for 2021's edition of the Book Awards, I had read, I think, 6 books, 6 young adult fictions, while for 2020's award, I hadn't read any. And I've only read 1 from this category, and that is Clap When You Land, because it was the winner. Otherwise, I would not have read any of these YA fictions. I think I gave it 4 stars. Yeah, it's not my favorite Elizabeth Acevedo book, but it's up there. It's a really good book. Young adult fantasy is next. Queen of Nothing, I did read already in 2020, if I remember correctly. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is another one of my currently reading. I think I started reading it in 2020. I read like, once again, 30%, and then I just didn't continue with it. So I still have it here in my pile of shame with other currently reading books, and I still plan on finishing it someday. Then we have Midnight Sun. Yes, I'm the one who went to the store on the release date, bought Midnight Sun, read it in 2 days, and that book is like 700 plus pages, just so you know. And I did vote for Midnight Sun in this award as well. I never expected that I would actually hold a physical copy of Midnight Sun in my hands. That was such a huge moment. And the fact that I read it within 48 hours is another incredible thing. I've also, as I've said, since read Cemetery Boys. Fable I got as an ARC and I DNF'd it. I don't know, I know many people love this book. It wasn't it for me. It was boring. I did not care about the gems. I did not care about her motivations and ambitions. Like, no, I DNF'd it, I'm sorry. These Violent Delights. This was a disappointment for me, actually. I gave it 2 stars. 4 books read, 1 DNF and 1 currently reading. My number 1 spot goes to Midnight Sun. Yes, this is probably a very biased answer. Initially, I gave it 5 stars. When I started to think about it a bit more, I actually lowered it to 4 stars. Cemetery Boys is the runner-up. Queen of Nothing will get 3rd place. And I only gave Queen of Nothing 2 stars, I think. That book disappointed me so much. It's so short. It's like barely 300 pages. And it's the final book in a fantasy series. It's the final book and it's not even 300 pages. And I really enjoyed the second book as well. So that's the thing. Like, I was on such a high after reading The Wicked King. And then I read The Queen of Nothing and oh boy, did it hurt me that it was so bad. And then last place, sorry, These Violent Delights. You were just boring. You were not what I expected you to be. You were supposed to be a Romeo and Juliet retelling in Shanghai, and you were trying to be like 5 or 6 different genres at once, and it was confusing and a bit messy, and I just didn't connect or care about the characters at all, and I struggled a lot with getting through the book. Final few categories, let's see. Middle grade and children's. The winner of 2020 was The Tower of Nero, which is one of the, I guess, Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson books, maybe, yeah, or like one of the trilogies or series within that universe, but it's like book 14 or something along those lines. And the thing is, I have not read a single Percy Jackson book at all, so that would have meant I needed to read like 14 or 15 books in order to get to this one if I wanted to achieve my goal of reading this book. So my sort of compromise with this was that I were to read one Percy Jackson book, the first one. So I have borrowed it from my friend, but I have not read it yet. The final category was picture books, and the winner of this category was Anti-Racist Baby. Did not get to this one, didn't really understand where I should have found it even to begin with. I looked for it online, looked for it at my library, but nah, nowhere. I'm gonna have a look in my little Bible here now. How many categories did I put here? Because these were the spreads I made for the challenge. 17, 18, 19. Yes, 19 categories. And how many winners did I read? 11. Out of the 19 categories I was aiming for, I read 11 of the winners. No, I did not reach my goal of reading at least 17. I could have, I feel like, if I had finished The Vanishing Half, if I had read From Blood and Ash, House of Earth and Blood, Mexican Gothic, Percy Jackson, that makes it 5, and then Memoir, so Barack Obama, I guess. That would have been 6 books, and that would have added up to 17. In my mind, I actually could have completed it, and I still might in the future, because I still might read these books in the future, but I did not do it within the year. Nevertheless, I felt like this was such a fun challenge to have, and I also really enjoyed to pick books from this selection of Goodreads books. So I'm actually doing this challenge this year as well. But of course, this time I'm focusing on the winners and the nominees for the 2021 Goodreads Choice Awards. So this is my setup for this year's challenge. Once again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I think we have 12 different categories this time. In total, I think there were maybe 17 or 18 categories. There were fewer ones. I don't think they had the cookbook one. They didn't have the picture one either. They combined history and science. This time I'm not doing it so that I need to read all of the winners from all the different categories. This time I'm doing it that I'm reading the winners from the categories I'm actually interested in. That's my wrap up for my Goodreads Choice Awards 2020 reading challenge. Once again, I'm really glad I did this. I had a lot of fun with it. It was fun to make the spread. It was fun to pick the books. And I felt some sort of accomplishment every time I actually read one of these books. So that was cool, and I'm glad I'm continuing with it. I hope you enjoyed this wrap up. If you have followed me for a while, you have probably heard me talk about this challenge a bunch. Perhaps you didn't even know what it was, but now you do. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Please take care, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye!
You gotta just go for it. Don't think about what